The opinions expressed in this show do not necessarily reflect the views of Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. We're so happy you joined us today and I am your host Kim Droege. So before we get started with our wonderful guests that we have in the chair, I want you to like and follow our Connecting with Kim accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and X, where you can find all the latest information about the show, my guests, and of course my on-air wardrobe, which is courtesy of the Spring of Tampa Bay thrift store on North Willow here in Tampa. Their mission is to provide safe spaces and empowering services to survivors of domestic violence and their children, and we are so very grateful for them. You can also catch the audio of my show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM and on your favorite streaming platform Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. And you can also go to our award-winning, and there is the award right over there, watch.tbae.net, which is our streaming service. So you can watch our shows on demand anytime you want. Present shows, past shows, they're all there for your watching enjoyment. So thank you for joining us for that. All right, so I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this guest in the chair for quite a while, and I want to introduce you to Karla Hartley, who is the producing artistic director of the Stageworks Theater here in Tampa. Welcome to Connecting with Kim, Karla.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
It's so wonderful to have you with us. We love when we can feature other parts of the arts because that is in our name, and we are very appreciative of it. So I start off the show the same way with everybody. I like them to share a little bit about their life journey as much as they feel comfortable with, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Oh, well, awesome. I'm a Tampa native. I'm actually a third generation native of Tampa, which is kind of a unicorn. So I was born here in Tampa. I grew up in Riverview before it was
Riverview?
Yeah, like there's nothing but like cows and pastures and stuff.
And 301 was like a two-lane road.
Two-line road, yeah, exactly. And we grew up, my dad built a house, solid as a rock house out there. And so I grew up there. I went to actually a school that doesn't exist anymore, Spencer Memorial Baptist School.
Okay.
That's where my parents were church-going folk. And from there, I went to Tampa Prep. And graduated from there, and I've always been engaged in the arts. When I was a kid, I was involved with what was called, at the time was called the Professional Children's Theater, and one of the more famous stories about me is that when I was about 10, neither of my parents could take me to class on a Saturday morning. They had stuff to do, but I certainly didn't want to miss it, so I hopped on my bicycle from Riverview, Florida, and I rode it on the crosstown down to Ybor to where my class was. I didn't realize it would take me several hours to get there, so I was late anyway, but people have always told me that is a prime example of my determination in the world and in life.
Well, not only that, but bravery riding the cross down.
Right?
Oh,
so I got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, I bet you did.
I got a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I took class in Ybor City as a kid. Then I went to Tampa Prep, as I say, did work there. My first professional job in the theater was with the Tampa Players, who are also now defunct, but I was 15. My first professional job, first thing I ever got paid for. So that was fun. I did several shows with them. I ended up finding an internship in Massachusetts at the North Shore Music Theater, which is 1,800 seats in the round. I'd never worked in the round before, and it was the greatest education of my life.
Where was this in Massachusetts?
In Beverly, Massachusetts. So
Okay.
just about 40 or so minutes north.
Well, I used to live
north
in
of Boston.
Massachusetts. That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah. So Salem, Beverly, Gloucester, up there.
I know where it is.
I was there for initially for a summer, and we rotated through every department. So as a 17-year-old, I was
Right.
learning set painting and sound and audio and lights and all of that stuff. And it was sort of the best education I could possibly have had. And I stayed with that organization all the way through college. I went to Boston University.
Okay.
And I have a BFA in theater studies from Boston University. And I continued working at the same theater I had interned at until 93. When, you know those moments where everything in your life just sort of turns all at the same time? That was it. So I came back to Tampa, and I've been here ever since. So I came back in 93. I started working with the Loft Theater, which also doesn't exist anymore.
Carla, there's kind of a theme here now. I mean, like, listening to your story, I'm going, okay, it's a little bit of theme here.
It occurs to me that, yes, I've closed many a place. But from there, I worked for 15 years at the Straz. At the time, it was called the Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center.
Right.
From there, we worked at American Stage and at Show Palace down in Hudson. And so I've worked pretty much everywhere. And then when Anna Brennan, who was my predecessor and the founder of Stageworks Theater, who was retiring, and she'd brought me in I had been with the company as an artist for probably a decade or more, and she asked me to be her successor. So I was very blessed and gratified that was something that she chose for me to do, and that's sort of where I am now. We opened the new space, but at the time, Stageworks was a nomadic sort of space, right?
It kind of moved around.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So rehearsal in different places, performing in different places, and everywhere. But finally, we raised a fair amount of money, did a capital campaign to the generosity of a lot of folk here in the Tampa Bay area, and opened this space in the Channel District. And we've been there now. We opened that space in 2011. So it's been about 12 or 13 years we've been there now.
Wow,
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm so happy for you.
So that's me in a
You got a
nutshell,
home.
I guess.
You
Yes,
got-
we have a home. And which is,
Well, having a home is important.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And just, if only for not having the stress of figuring out where you're going to rehearse, where you're going to perform. It's a lot. And having a building is a lot. I'm not going to lie about that.
Yeah.
But it gives us a great sense of permanence, and we're able to host other theater companies as well. So now I'm in the position of being able not only to do my own really great work that we do at Stageworks Theater, but we're able to host other companies. Power Stories, Fran Powers, they've been in several times. Think Tank Theater, which is a theater for young audiences around. So I try very hard to make sure that I am returning the favor, the sort of cosmic favor of helping other people on their way up in the same way that I was helped by some really interesting and powerful and talented, specifically women. I've never worked for a man, and not in a direct sort of relationship in terms of business.
And we're not saying that there's anything bad about that.
Men are cool.
But women are. I think women are very good at that in general, of lifting, helping, promoting, nurturing other women.
Yeah, and I'm a very big proponent of a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that my colleagues in the area have everything that they need. We regularly trade resources, and making sure that the theater scene in Tampa is vibrant as possible, not just on my behalf, but on the behalf of many other theater companies. So
I think you've had an extremely interesting background because of all the different jobs that you've had and all the different things that you've done. You really understand theater and stage production from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I mean, from the germination of the idea to the rehearsal of it, to the establishing the set, and then to the final performance that you have to deliver. to an audience.
Yeah, I've been through all of it. I've built sets. I've done
And you've
all
done
of
it
those
yourself,
things. I've
right?
done it. I've personally done it.
So you
I
can stand in the shoes of the actor.
Exactly. So I know what work goes into each individual aspect of what we do. I'm a generalist in many ways, jack of all trades, master of none. Maybe not master of none. I'm pretty good at what I do, but it's and that rounded background is really goes back to that internship that I did when I was 17 years old, and it was around professionals who were really doing their thing on a consistent basis with kindness and with generosity and with extraordinary talent.
Well, having lived in Massachusetts, I mean, I can tell people that it, without any doubt, that it is the state itself, the city of Boston, and then of course Tanglewood. It is a state that has a lot of arts and supports the arts.
Absolutely.
Incredibly. So yeah, I totally get what a great experience that probably was,
Yeah.
So let me understand. So we've got Stageworks Theater has a home in Channelside.
Yep.
So tell me how Stageworks Theater operates. I mean, how do you decide what productions you're going to do? I mean, tell me about the nuts and bolts.
Sure. Well, I mean, I decide what productions we do, and for better or worse, there are plays that interest me. There are plays that I feel like the community needs to see. Whether the community agrees or not.
Do you have a season? How many?
Yeah,
have a
we
season?
do six shows a year.
Okay.
Generally speaking, 2 of those are going to be musicals, which are very, very fun, and then 2 are going to be known names, right? Names that people will recognize and remember and have name recognition, and then a couple of plays in the middle that are really, really special, that are based primarily in social justice, that really speak towards our mission, which is to ignite the human spirit, and making sure that our community is having the conversations that our community needs to have in order to move forward as a unified group. And it's increasingly more difficult. That is, as we look at a much more polarized society than we've ever really have existed in.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful that maybe some of that will come back together. And I'm going to do my part to make that happen. I mean, my goal in life is to move through it with honor to all and damage to none.
And I love that, because just because we are polarized does not mean that we shouldn't keep having the conversations.
For sure.
We just have to try to find some kind of grace, style, and respect to have those conversations. But I applaud you for continuing it.
It's sometimes you get a little down in the dumps about it if people don't respond in the way that we'd hope they would, but all we can do is do the best that we can, and I tell actors this all the time in terms of their characters and plays. Everybody in our world is doing the best that they can based on the lexicon of their experience. So if somebody doesn't agree with me, doesn't make them bad, doesn't make me bad. It just means that it's different. And in order to come to Jesus, as it were, about an issue, it takes communication, and it takes gentleness, and it takes cooperation and grace, as you say. And that's really what I want to do. I want to be sure that people are. I don't promise you that you're going to like everything that you see at my theater, but I promise you're going to talk about it the next day with your friends and colleagues.
Well, I think that's a noble. I think that's very noble, and I applaud that. If you're just joining us now and connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is Karla Hartley, who is the producing artistic director of Stageworks Theater here in Tampa, and we are talking about what kind of productions that Stageworks offers to our community. So I love it. There's a little bit of something for everybody. There's musicals, there's well-known plays, and then there's social conscience.
Yeah.
And I like that. So tell me, what are you doing this year? We try to produce shows that what are called evergreen, but I think it's important to talk about what you're doing this year, this season.
Well, our coming season, the theme is onward, and we're starting off with a play called "What the Constitution Means to Me," which is about the Constitution of the United States and issues inside of it, whether or not it's still the living, breathing document that we need it to be. It's a very, very interesting play. It's not particularly polarizing, but it's a great examination of our public discourse and how we move through the world as Americans. After that, a real switch up. We're doing a play called The Great American Trailer Park Christmas Musical. We did a couple seasons ago. We did a play, The Great American Trailer Park Musical, and this is the next iteration of that. So it's sort of a white trash Scrooge. It's very, very funny. It's not for the faint of heart. It's
going to be graphic, a little bit graphic.
A little bit, some language, some language.
Okay.
Then the next after that is called The People Downstairs. It is a play by a local playwright, Natalie Simons, who's over in St. Petersburg, who actually, weirdly, we went to college together.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know that she was down here, and she didn't know I was down here, and then we met at this one particular thing. We were surprised, and we've just re-engaged in our friendship. And it's been a really
serendipitous,
great
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So her play, I'm going to actually be in that play.
Oh, cool.
After that, we're doing a play not in our space, but in the Straz, over at the Straz in the Jade Theater. Is a play that we did a couple of years ago. It's called When the Righteous Triumph, and it's about the lunch counter protests here in Tampa in the 1960s.
Oh,
the
very
Woolworth
cool.
protests.
Very cool.
So it's examining the what they call the Tampa technique, which, and arguably speaking, the Tampa sit-ins at the lunch counters were the most successful in the South in terms of nonviolent space.
Right.
So that is a play that we're very anxious to do for a broader audience in that larger space over at the Straz.
Right. I like the Jabe Theater. It's nice.
It's a lovely.
I knew Mrs. Jabe.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I did.
It's a lovely space. Fifth show is called Morningside. It's a comedy from a playwright out of Atlanta. It's about the worst baby shower ever. So it's super fun. I'll be in that as well. I never do this, but I'm in 2 plays this year. But
You must really be into
I
those.
do. I like them a lot. Yeah, and Natalie's play. She wanted me to do it, and I thought it would be a great time to play with her on stage. So.
Yeah.
And then last, we're doing a play called Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, which is about the life and times of Billie Holiday. Oh. So it's beautiful music, all of her music, and it's set at one of her last concerts about 4 months before she passed in Philadelphia. So that's the season. I think it's a really great season. I think it's broad. It's a broad spectrum. I think there's something that appeals to everybody.
Some for everybody.
Yeah. So
let me ask you now: where do you recruit your talent from to be in these shows?
Tampa. Tampa has an extraordinary group of talented people. I very rarely will bring somebody in from out of town because I don't think I need to. I think that the people who work here and live here and make their living as artists here have great value. And I can't think of anything in particular that I can't cast here locally with all of the talented folk that we have. So I'm committed to local artists. I want to make sure that they're working. I can't pay them a living wage, I can't do that, but I can help. And I think that the more that our artists are showcased locally, the more that they have the opportunity to spread their wings and grow and maybe move to larger markets.
I love that. We have a mutual friend, I think, who's in one of your upcoming productions, Kari Getz.
Oh, Carrie, she's in Constitution Meet. The Constitution
I
Meets
thought
to
she
me.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Now, let me ask you a question, because these are people that they're acting in conjunction with whatever they're doing in the rest of their life, right?
For sure.
They're not full-time actors as we think of them. So when do your rehearsals and all that kind of thing take place?
Generally, we rehearse in the evenings and on the weekends, because I do know that actors have jobs that vary from restaurant jobs to law firms to in that play with Carrie is Matt DePascal. He's a lawyer in town, so he has a busy life himself. So it's mostly nights and weekends. Sometimes I get lucky and I have folks who don't work during the day and we can rehearse during the day, which is awesome. It's always my preference rather, and my wife's preference as well, so I can be home a little bit more.
Well, of course, right.
So we try to do that, and then we have a lot of really dedicated teaching artists. Stageworks does a lot of teaching in the community, mostly in underserved and marginalized communities. So, and we don't do that for sometimes people can pay us a little bit to bring that program in there, but for the most part we fundraise on the opportunity to take work. To go into communities mostly communities of color, marginalized communities, communities who are economically disadvantaged, or unhoused communities as well, and teach theater and teach arts. And we go to the juvenile justice system. We teach theater as a source of anger management and conflict resolution.
Oh, cool.
And we've had great response to all of that. And we have our bucket drumming, bucket drummers like you'd see on the streets of New York or whatever. Alvon Griffin is our master percussionist. He teaches young people the value of bucket drumming, but it's math-based, it's team building based, it gives everybody the opportunity to have a success. It's a really, our education program is robust, and it's probably the best kept secret in town,
right? Yeah.
But we do really great work. So.
Oh, I didn't know that, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
amazed
exciting.
and happy to hear about that.
Yeah, and I think some of the photos I dropped to y'all
Yeah,
have the
and we will
students in them,
have
yeah.
those in the final cut of this interview. Let me ask you, when you when you stage a production, how long does that production run?
About 3 weeks. So
Okay.
we rehearse for 3 weeks and then run for 3 weeks. And it's typically 4 shows a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's 12 performances, and then we're done. I mean, sometimes if things are going really gangbusters for us, then we'll extend it for an extra weekend. Trailer Park Christmas, we've already decided to do a 4th weekend because when we did the original production, it sold like crazy, and we couldn't add weekends after that, so we planned ahead this time to do that. So yeah, so we rehearsed for 3 weeks, and it's pretty quick and dirty. If
You rehearse for 3 weeks only?
yeah,
Wow.
about 20 hours a week. So.
Well, looking back, in one of my previous lives, I was in theater.
Okay, awesome. Well, then you should be coming out to me and talking about more things.
If I could only find more time.
I know, right? That's the rub, isn't it?
If I could only
So much
find
time.
more time. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's but it's concentrated. It's concentrated work. I mean, a lot. Like I also teach at the University of Tampa in the theater department there.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So those processes.
You left that out in your opening.
Oh, that's right, I did. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I don't remember all the
Yeah,
things.
you teach at the University of Tampa. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Renaissance woman.
You are.
But those processes are much longer because they're students and they don't quite have all the skills that they require. But once you get in the professional world, time is money, and the longer we rehearse, the more money I have to pay out. So that dictates a little bit of the shortest process. When I was at American Stage working, I was directing a play called God of Carnage, and we were 10 days from first rehearsal to tech for that play. But it was also full days, right? It was 6 or 8 hours a day. So we had an opportunity to really tighten that schedule up. But it can be challenging for sure, especially on bigger works like Righteous or the things that require a lot of in-depth sort of table work and talk,
And do you do that? Do you do a read-through with a couple of read-throughs with all of your actors when you pick the production
sure.
you're going to do?
First thing.
Yeah.
First day of rehearsal. It's important to me to have time with the play at the table so that the actors can feel out what they need to do. I can hear it out of the mouths of other people because so far I've only heard it in my head.
Right.
And that can change things really kind of drastically as you're listening to actors do their work on a play. And we'll do that probably 2 or 3 times. And talk about it because we all have to know that we're rowing towards the same shore. So if I jump into something and I haven't had these conversations about the play with the actors, then it's very likely that they'll have a perception of something that does not jive with my perception of something.
Right.
And for better or worse, my perception of something wins. So as the
Well,
director.
you're the director, right?
Right. But I don't. But part of the skill of directing, right, is to be able to talk to people in a language that they can understand. So you might have 6 actors in a room, and they all work differently.
And you want to bring out the best in each individual.
Absolutely, and
right?
I want to do that with kindness and respect and grace.
Right.
So, so having that time together as a unit at the table before we get up on its feet is really important to my process, and I think that actors respond to it as well.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. So but one question I wanted to ask is,
Yeah.
so how far in advance do you start looking to decide what productions you're going to do?
I'm starting now to look at 25, 26.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because you're doing 24, 25 right now.
Exactly.
And then you're going to do 25, 26 in the next batch.
So I will have everything selected for next season, hopefully by the end of December.
Cool.
So that we can get it to artwork and we can get all of the sponsors lined up and all that kind of thing, so that we know where we're going thematically for the following year.
Super.
Yeah, so it's never. It feels like literally I'm starting this season while I'm starting to plan for the next one.
Well,
So,
I do the same thing. I mean, I'm shooting the second half of season 3 right now. But
sure.
once they give me my dates, I will start planning for the beginning of the second half of season 4. I mean, the first half of season 4. So, I'm always doing things simultaneously. So we're almost out of time. So we talked about it before we went on, and I want to give you an opportunity to look in your camera right there and share any additional short bit of information with the audience that you want that we didn't cover.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
You're more than welcome.
As I said before, Stageworks Theater is dedicated to igniting the human spirit, and that's our goal. And I know that a lot of people seem to think that the arts is beyond them. It's for the elite. It's for folks who have some sort of higher status in life, or have more money, or have more prestige, or whatever. But the arts are for everybody, and artists are the historians of society. Everything that we know about the history of civilization, we know because a painter painted a painting about it, a writer wrote it down. In this day and age, video and photography is making a living documented record of the times in which we live. And that is how we connect to history. So when you see an artist, don't see them as sort of a frou-frou person who might, have to work at the restaurant slinging drinks or whatever to make their life together. Look at them as a historian, and look at them as someone who is worthy of attention and compensation, and the love that we all have for our society and for each other is something that we at Stageworks really want to be able to focus on and make sure that our community is coming together to work towards a common goal, whatever that goal might be in any given moment. So.
Oh, I love that. And we have a new, we have a saying here now at TBAE, and we put it on all our posts. Art is infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure.
No matter what those people in Tallahassee might think.
For
art
sure,
is
yeah.
infrastructure. And art has been with us since the day the men made cave drawings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Karla, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It's my
on
pleasure. I had an
Connecting with
awesome
Kim.
time.
If you're just joining us now, my guest in the chair is Karla Hartley, who is the producing artistic director of Stageworks Theater here in Tampa. And so if you're just joining us now, you need to go back and look at the whole interview. Thank you very much. And that's all we have time for today. So I just want to thank you for joining us here on Connecting with Kim on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X for all the information about our show, our guests, and my honor wardrobe from the Spring of Tampa Bay, who does good work in our community for survivors of domestic violence and their children. We'll be back next week with another edition of Connecting with Kim, helping you live your best life in our corner of paradise. So long.